I also want to emphasize that I hope people understand that there's a lot of work that goes into being successful doing sex work of any kind, and that part of that hard work is understanding, like when Kenny Rogers said, you gotta know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away, know when to run. You better count your blessings when you're sitting at the computer, okay? Because you better count the motherfucking blessings when you sitting in front of OnlyFans.com and you wondering why you ain't made no sales this week, but you made sales 3 weeks ago. What I was saying is I'm very tired of people constantly doing like this notion of like get rich quick, and that like because of the whorephobia and the misunderstandings and the not taking sex work seriously of it all, and this idea that anything on social media was made quickly because it's been reduced to a short amount of time. And in our minds, we think that, I don't know how niggas feel like a 30-second video of me twerking took me 30 seconds to make. I may have done various iterations of that video. It may be a clip from a longer video. Like we're making a lot of misconceptions around something simply because we're seeing it in a container. And one of the biggest issues is that I find it so interesting how people have like adopted benevolent whorephobia, where they will demonize even the work that they're doing. They'll be like, oh, this is not sex work. This is not sex work. This is OnlyFans. This is not sex work. I'm just showing my feet. And then I don't know what they're doing on the other side of that camera. But if someone were to point the arrow at them and be like, my nigga in Christ, sex work does not mean penetration. It does not mean pornography. You are still selling a desire to people. And these are things that people have fetishized, which means they have sexual urges about these things, which means that they may pleasure themselves to these things. Baby, you a hoe too. You a hoe, I'm a hoe, we all hoes, okay? Like, they're trying to make this differentiation between not being the dirty girl or the sex worker and just being someone from Omaha, Nebraska that just shows their pedicured toenails on live every Tuesday. Like, baby, I think we need to expand our minds and recognize that things are not monolithic, and they do extend, or they do exist, on a spectrum. And that, sure, you may not be on the extreme side of the spectrum, but you're still on the fucking spectrum. And so that's neither here nor there. But that is one of the things that I will talk about. That is one of the things I will talk about more when I talk about how sex workers being portrayed in Euphoria, and how I just feel like media should just not talk about sex work in general, especially since a lot of times when they do talk about sex work, it comes from a very specific lens. And it's primarily a lens of people that want to see the suffering and not the upliftment and the humanity. But I digress. But breaking down the statement some more beyond the, oh, this is not sex work, this is me selling my pedicure toes on Feet Finder. A lot of creators will come out and say, oh, I made like 100K in 6 months, or I made like 300K in a year, or even some folks have made $1 million over the span of their career. And this all may be true. But I also want to name that is not necessarily going to be the average person doing sex work. According to SWR data, which is like a sex worker data substack that collects a lot of the information around sex worker pay, the demographics of the types of sex workers, or the type of sex work that is benefiting from the most monetary gain, the type of how sex work is trending, the trends within the industry, and how things are changing over time. One of their recent posts that I read like a couple weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago, talks about how most sex workers make around, like the average sex worker, especially if they're a full-time sex worker, makes about $60,000 a year. So when we have these outliers of people making millions of dollars a year, or people making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, so 6-figure, 7-figure salaries while doing this work, I think it's important to note that there are layers that come to that produce that type of experience. And one of those layers is just sheer luck. Also, other layers are, do we have to think about the identities of these people, how close they are to whiteness, if they have some level of notoriety or are they a public figure, or are they someone that's a celebrity? Because that also plays a part too, because a lot of celebrities saw how people were capitalizing off of OnlyFans, and then they kind of co-opted to make another, like a tertiary or a fourth income while we were in lockdown. Also, What type of marketing is this person doing? Has this person done any big collabs with other creators and production studios? Like, I think we should really think about all these things. And like I said before, one of those things being, well, shit, they just got lucky, and that's just the luck of the draw, and that's okay too. But I'm gonna say this right now: everybody is not seeing $100,000. And if you do see that type of money, we also have to think about how long some people have been in the business, because some of those people have been in the business even before Backpage got shut down. So sometimes you do have sex workers that have been working for 10 years now, making over 100K, and that makes sense because they spent so much time going through the industry, and they've seen how it shifted and changed, and they have good marketing, or they're good at pivoting. But I will also tell you this: just because someone is telling you they made this amount of money in a specific time may not necessarily mean that they're going to continue making that same amount of money. Doesn't necessarily mean it wasn't challenging to get that money, because especially for the veteran sex workers who work in the business for decades, a lot of them will even tell you, because of the changes of laws, because of the economy, because of cultural shifts, because of just overall trends in terms of how we communicate and how we procure content, that plays a huge role in how much money they're going to make or not make. And so I think it's truly important to understand that, like, there are so many moving parts that go into being a spicy content creator, and so much work and admin in particular that goes on behind the scenes that a lot of people do not see or acknowledge, because everyone becomes accustomed to the finished product. They're not seeing the pre-production aspect or the post-production aspects. They're just seeing, like I said, the finished product. And the finished product, if you don't necessarily have an acumen for media literacy, a lot of people get caught up in this idea of what I'm seeing is the reality, but that's not necessarily the reality. So Susie from Omaha, Nebraska, made her first $100,000 in 6 months. Is not telling you when her first 2 weeks were hell and she wanted to quit and she did not make a single dime. Didn't tell you that Feet Finder, you have to have a specific subscription to even sell. You actually have to pay the site to sell. Didn't tell you that she started off with certain investments to even get started in the business. So, like, there are so many things that people do not tell you about their experience with doing well on a particular platform or doing well with sex work, particularly the digital sex work, because people want to glamorize it. And especially if we're doing ads for a site, of course people are going to talk about the site because they want people to convert, because more creators come, which in hopes more customers come, which in hopes will give more revenue to the site. And also, if she has a promo code, because a lot of times they have affiliate links and affiliate marketing, because that's also a great tactic for us as sex workers. And I have no issues with that, because even I've given out an affiliate link for like a Fansly, because whatever sales a person makes from signing up for my link, I get a percentage of that. So I think it's cool and it's fine. But I also just want folks to understand that, like, there's so much that goes into income, there's so much that goes into the money, and you may not see that money right away. Again, luck does happen where there are people that see that money right away, even if they're not seasoned creators, and that's cool. We're not here to judge that, but I want y'all to know that that's not going to be everybody's story. And me as a sex worker, Monique Starr, that is not their story. That is not my truth. I'm not making 100K, because if I was making 100K, I wouldn't be working 80 other jobs. I would just do this. And also, specifically, if you see anybody saying that in this particular economy, I would give that some pause, because also there's a lot of times people making that money from selling y'all a class on how to make that money, and the class be giving generic ideas. When, baby, you could have went to the Reddit. You could have went to Reddit. There are several subreddits that teach you about camming, that give insider information from actual workers who are doing the work, that can give you ideas. So when Susie from Omaha is like, I sold pictures of my feet, my pedicure, and men pay for my pedicure on Feet Finder, and this is a ebook on, click the link in the bio for an ebook on how I did it. She's actually selling you the ebook, and that's how she's making part of that money. And she's not necessarily telling you anything that you can't find. But that is a misconception. The get rich quick, the money coming fast shit is very much a misconception, and that a lot of times people are actually selling you a very generic step-by-step how-to of how to do shit. There are many resources that you can find online and even in elsewhere that could be very helpful. And also making friends with and talking to sex workers beyond the work. Like, don't be making friends with sex workers because you want to get their knowledge, because we're not doing that. You should make friends with anybody, marginalized especially, and just do that. I think that's very weird. But even if you wanted to be in community with people, if you're going to do a specific type of work, you should be in community with the people that are doing similar work, so you can have a better understanding. And it's okay to ask questions, and it's also okay for you to give support and feedback too. This is how you learn, and this is how you grow as a creative. And maybe you won't make $100,000 in 6 months like Susie from Omaha, Nebraska did, but you may make $10,000. You may make $500. You may make something. I think any amount of money you make is okay. But it definitely is about being in community, putting yourself out there, and also working hard. And I want to talk about the working hard part. And I don't mean working hard like pull up your bootstraps, working hard. What I'm saying is it's going to be hard. You're going to put in a lot of work to get the shit done. Okay? Like, there's so much content you got to take. There's so much content you got to edit. There's so much marketing that you have to do. There's so much learning platforms. There's the customer service aspect where you got to talk to these insufferable ass people. And especially now that America is tanking and we are definitely experiencing an integrity collapse that precedes the systems collapse. Niggas are just volatile and unhinged. So the truth of the matter is, when you become an entrepreneur, you're going to be mostly doing everything, especially as a small business owner, because you don't necessarily have the funds to pay other people to help you with that work. And a lot of people get burnt out very quickly when they try to do everything at once. Like, they try to learn everything, they try to post everything, they try to experience everything, they try to market everything to everybody, and then you just get burnt out. You're doing too much. So I also want to emphasize that I hope people understand that there's a lot of work that goes into being successful doing sex work of any kind, and that part of that hard work is understanding, like when Kenny Rogers said, you gotta know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away, know when to run. You better count your blessings when you're sitting at the computer, okay? Because you better count the motherfucking blessings when you sitting in front of OnlyFans.com and you wondering why you ain't made no sales this week, but you made sales 3 weeks ago. These things are volatile. They're not written in stone. There's no guarantee in the type of income you're going to make. So also keeping in mind that you very much have to become flexible and roll with the changes of the industry. That is not to say that you don't get angry, that you don't get irritated, that you don't get sad or scared or any type of adverse emotions. That comes with the territory. But this is why it's important to have a community that you could be supported by. And also, it's important that you understand the reality of what this work is. Because if we're not living in reality, we just need to hang it up flat screen. No Nicki Minaj. So anyway, I realize I've been yapping a lot and I'm not even doing my motherfucking makeup. And I know I was here to do makeup and talk about the business, but like, let's get the makeup going. And also, you are going to be broke. I'm going to tell y'all right now, there are times where you will be broke in this industry. And there are times where a customer is going to say some shit to you and you just going to want to hit end on the stream, or a customer is going to say some shit to you and you just want to hang up the phone, or a customer is going to do some shit that's really going to make you tweak. And trust me, I've experienced all of those. And guess what? You are not alone in that. So that makes even more of a greater case for the importance of having a strong community and the importance of like being open-minded. First thing we're gonna do is the motherfucking brows. I got some primer here. I want to fold up my septum ring. So for those of y'all that don't know the brow stuff that I use, it's gray free. I found out about it on TikTok, and basically it's supposed to be for you to cover your brows. Cover your gray hairs. But I just use it for my brows, and I don't do the whole step of like, blow drying it and setting it, because like I'm not doing it for this purpose. I'm doing it to fill in my blonde, my bleached hairs on my brows. So I just do a quick pass over, nothing too schmancy. I'm gonna fix that underneath because I did get some right there, but it's all Gucci. Okay. And then I want to take a skin tone concealer and like a brush to just clean up the brows a little bit. So I'll just do them right under the brow bone and right above, just to carve the brows out a bit more. Another myth is that people think these clients are your friends. They're not your friends. And I feel like a lot of us have to learn that the hard way, because sometimes we get a client that's really cool and really respectful, or we get a client that's in most cases seemingly cool and respectful, but then they slowly but surely start trying to either demand all your time or try to talk to you in a way where they don't have to necessarily pay to talk to you, like trying to get one over, especially if you're a newer creator or you're a person that's even newer to them. They may think it's okay to kind of get one over on you. But like in any job, it's important to set boundaries, but especially in work like mine, a lot of the work I do, even just beyond spicy work, you need to set boundaries, because People like to take advantage of like your likeness. People like to take advantage of your ability. And especially when it comes to sex work, people like to take advantage because they don't take our work seriously. Because the whorephobia of it all tells them that, oh, we're not worth the prices we set. We should be doing this for free, because particularly women and femmes are expected to like do these things for free. So why the fuck would I pay them to do it? When it's, first of all, that's very rape culture of you, especially with the expectation piece. But rape culture is also an institution of whorephobia, which is also an institution of patriarchy, which is also an institution of white supremacy. So I can go on and on, like Erykah Badu said, but I'm not going to. But these niggas will try every hat in the book. You would think these niggas is Chris Angel, David Copperfield, Houdini, the way they will jump through hoops and boxes just to get off for free, because they don't find value in our work, even though they know there's value. I'm sorry, but if anybody is helping you get off, there's clearly a value in the work, because somebody else made that work for you to get off to. Like, you didn't make that to get off to it. They made it. So they should be, so that's a feat in itself. Like, they're doing a job. So these niggas will try to take advantage of you quickly and sell you all types of lies. And it's like, no, baby, I'm not waiting for you to come back to pay me. Oh, I'll pay you for a private later. I'll pay you tokens for being here. No, you're going to pay me now. Or if you're not going to pay me now, I'm not. No, we're not setting expectations like that. And if you're going to come in here and say shit like that, and you're going to keep saying shit like that, you're getting blocked because you just want to waste my time and fluster me. Also, the niggas that want to seem so nice and seem so urgent, like, oh, I got to tell you something. You got to PM me. You got to private message me. And then when you get up in there, all the niggas say is you're gorgeous. You couldn't say that on the main chat. This is more so for streamers and cam people. But it's like, baby, you didn't, that water is wet. I know I look good. So that's why I be telling niggas when they be like, oh, can you PM me? It's urgent. I tell them, well, it's urgent that you pay me. You pay me X amount of tokens to send a PM, because I know it's going to be some bullshit. And at least with the bullshit, I get paid. And then what I encountered recently is the type of dude that likes to act like he a spokesperson for the site, or he know how to grow your shit on the site, and just telling you generic advice. Like, oh, like I remember when I was trying out Stripchat, which Stripchat I'm realizing is not a platform for me. I may do some videos on certain platforms and like my feelings and thoughts on them. And honestly, I mostly hate all of them, because I just find all of them to be ass. But they all have their own situations and their own makeup. But all right, I'm using the neutral palette. I think I want to start off with the white. Like I want to take a fluffier brush and put the white all over the lid, or close to white. This is not white, but we'll use it. This man was like, oh, I got some, he DM'd me, and he seemed cool. And again, I was caught a little unawares, because you know what, my ADHD was ADHD, and I wasn't really paying attention. So the nigga is telling me all about how to use the site, but I've used Stripchat before, just not on that account. I started a new account because when I first did it, I just gave up completely because I just was not feeling it. But then I came back on a new account, and I just wanted to test it out again to see how the new tag would fare. Because Stripchat does not mind how many you make it multiple accounts. They don't mind that, as long as you get verified, you're cool, and you have a new email, you're good. And so he was telling me like, and I'm telling him that I already know the shit, but he kept going on and on. And he's like, well, I'm on late night, so if you come back on late night, I'll tip you. I went on late night, not for his ass, but I was going to try a new time slot anyway, because I wanted to do that, and his ass never showed up. So I already knew he wasn't going to pay shit. But like, these niggas will make up any and everything in the book to make it seem like they're friendly, to make it seem like they're cool and nice, when in fact they're just getting off to the fact that like they're taking your attention away from the main chat without actually paying you for it, which they know they should be paying you for it. Now, the argument becomes, this is a freemium site, and a freemium site means that you can watch for free and you can jork it for free. So essentially, you may not necessarily need to pay anything, but there are premium features that you do have to pay for, with that each model sets their own rates for. And to that, I say you should be paying either way. And I don't think the site should be freemium at all. I think the site should be, you should pay for it, because people deserve to be paid. I also wish that these sites actually paid people the full $1 and charge the customer a processing fee to get tokens. So that way, instead of 5 tokens is $5 and not 25 cents, because what the fuck am I going to do with 25 cents? So I can wax poetic all day about that, because that is truly something that irritates me, and that's truly something that I really cannot stand, because I feel like spicy creators and spicy workers deserve to have an equitable experience. Spicy creators and spicy workers deserve to have an equitable experience and equitable pay and safe working environments. But that is a whole nother story. But TLDR, these men are not your friends. They don't want to be your friends. They don't even see you as human. A lot of them just want to get off to you and go on to another person to get off to. Or turn over in their beds that they're sleeping next to their sleeping wives in and act like nothing happened. Not to say there's anything wrong with watching models, but a lot of these niggas be weird. And I'm just telling the reality of that. Speaking of weirdness, I'm noticing, especially with this authoritarian regime, and I know this is a sex work site, but there is like an obsession with trans folk and an obsession with understanding our genitals. So for those of y'all that are new here, I am non-binary. I use they, them pronouns. I am an AFAB person, which means I was born with a coochie with quote unquote female reproductive organs. I don't explain all that. I just say I have a vagina and keep it at that. But I also say that if people keep asking me questions about my genitals, then I will block you, because it's really a problem. But I'm noticing, because I did not know on Chaturbate in particular that I can identify as non-binary, but it's put under the trans tag, which technically it should be, because the non-binary identity technically is a trans identity. But a lot of people don't look beyond cis and trans. They just look at cisgender and transgender and call it a day. And they don't understand that trans identities are an umbrella and a spectrum, not just one thing. And also there are trans people beyond trans women. So there's that. But I've noticed that after I changed my gender identity, that I've gotten an uptick of, can I see your Peter? Can I see your John Hancock? Can I see your eggplant type shit? And I'm like, I don't have one. Hate to break it to you, Jorkin at 575. Hate to break it to you, Heavy Balls 313, but like, I don't have a penis. And so every time I say that, they be leaving the channel immediately. But then one day, one of them got real bold and was like, but you're in the trans channel, so why are you in the trans channel if you don't have a penis? And I'm like, it literally says non-binary next to it. And I said, also, it behooves you to read. I know most of y'all can't think beyond jacking off. And I said this out loud because I don't care. But, reading is fundamental. And especially if you're trying to get off to somebody, I think it's important to read who you're trying to get off to before making assumptions. And so he was like, well, were you... Basically was trying to say, asked me if I had bottom surgery, because then the expectation was, if I have a vagina now, like, did I get bottom surgery? And I just blocked them, because like, this was just getting aggravating. And when I get to a place where I'm aggravated, I don't want to talk no more. Then another client I had, or a prospective client that was messaging me on another site, was calling me all types of these feminine like terms of endearment that I didn't ask for. And mind you, this is our first exchange. Well, he messaged me. I did not message him. I don't message a lot of people on fetish sites because I don't want to be irritated. And also, I don't be up there long enough to message anybody like that. He was calling me all this goddess and all types of shit. And I told him, I'm like, I don't really respond to those. I'm non-binary. And he didn't respond right away because allegedly he don't be on the app. But then he responded and he's like, I don't really care what you call yourself, but you were born a woman, right? But I literally just told him I'm not a woman. So why would I even put me and a woman in the same sentence? So I blocked him immediately. But it is very difficult. I don't think people talk enough about how difficult it is to sell content as a non-binary person, because a lot of times we're stuck in either trying to be a trans man, selling content as like a trans man, especially if you're a non-binary person that is AFAB. Either you're stuck in making content as a trans man, or you're stuck in making content as a woman. Primarily, you're stuck in making content as a woman if you are a femme presenting person, because like, it's very difficult to really be seen the way you want to be seen, because these platforms that are selling the content, that people are selling the content on, that we're using to make a profit, they don't really have non-binary sections or tags, or even like content devoted to like housing our content. It's usually just put under trans, which I think is problematic, because I think even with trans content, they need to start separating the content out into subsections, because transness does not just mean trans femme, or transness does not mean, in their small brains, how they know it as male to female, male to female people, which don't even sound right, but whatever, that's how they be thinking. So it's like, I think we need to be a bit more inclusive when it comes to these porn tags and these spicy work tags, but they're not going to do that because it's not about inclusivity. It's about feeding a fetish, and it's about people just consuming the content and not necessarily caring for the identities. So we also have to think about that too when on these platforms and when experiencing these platforms. This is the best I could do for now. I may come back and do something different, but I'm okay with a simple eye. Everything don't gotta be avant-garde and shit. Sometimes we just need a nice smoky eye to get us through. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, the eyes are not always the star of the show. Sometimes it's the outfit, and you just want a nice face to like accompany as an accompaniment. However, some of my joys that have come from sex work are people who do recognize gender variance and do understand that people identify as various things, and they are very kind and very understanding about it. So I had a client that I did a private with recently who stopped by to say hi again. He was interesting. I'm not going to talk about the details of what happened, but he came back to talk to me and say hi. And he was like, hey, so I read your profile and it says that you're non-binary. Like, how would you like for me to refer to you? And that was very refreshing because I don't get asked that often in either a social context or a sex worker context. But when I do, it's always very refreshing to be asked a question like that, because it's like the least these people can do is ask you how you should be identified and not necessarily put a fantasy onto you, but making sure that like you still feel humanized in the process of engaging in transactionary in a transaction, because sex work it's a job, it's a transaction. And so I told him, I was like, I appreciate you saying that, and I told him my pronouns and shit and how I like to be referred to. And he was like, just checking in to see what I referred to as last time is okay still. And I was like, yeah, it's fine, but I prefer this. And he's like, that's actually hot. I'd rather call you that too. So I was like, just very appreciative. And he said, listen, it's the least I can do. Like, people still deserve to be treated with dignity. And again, not trying to give no man a gold star or anything, because I don't think any of them should get a gold star. You can still like see the humanity of someone and be turned on by them. Like, it's really not that hard, and it's not a novel concept. And these niggas really be lifting my lace because they be acting like they can't even see your humanity. The other part that's real irritating to me is that these platforms, again, don't necessarily create space to have us identify how we want to identify. And I'm glad that Chaturbate does have an option for you to identify as non-binary, because most of these platforms do not. But also, it shouldn't just stop there. A lot of these platforms say, well, we have the option to stop there. They don't actually make the options accessible beyond what you can identify as. And they don't necessarily direct the customers accordingly. It's always, let's just dump this shit here just to say we have it and call it a day, when it's like, no, you actually have to put hard work and love into something so that your customer base and your employee base feel supported, or your sole proprietor base feel supported, because we're not necessarily employees of these places. We're like sole proprietors that are utilizing their software and their platform as a means to make the money. So I wish these platforms were better about gender. I wish these platforms were better about identities in general, because everyone that's fat is not a BBW, because that would require for everyone that's fat to be a woman. And it's very hard for me to identify as non-binary, but then I have to mark that I'm a big, beautiful woman, because there's nothing else for me to mark or market myself. So again, I only use tags for the discovery's sake. I only cosplay womanhood for the discovery's sake. But I try really hard to represent my gender identity the best that I can within the parameters that I'm in, because there's only but so much I can do. But I do feel like these platforms could be doing more and saying more. But there's only but so much I could do. But I definitely now want to transition. And talk about the racism that occurs on these platforms, and how we're just chalking it up as okay because of fantasy sake and fetishism sake. And also, a lot of these platforms do not know how to cater to black performers, or black people in general, primarily performers, because they don't care about us. So I was on Stripchat, and I was kind of like busy doing other shit, so I was not really paying attention. But this one man came in the chat and was like, trigger warning, old racism. The man was like, sexy colored gal. And I had to pause for a minute, because layers. I'm like, the only thing in the room is sexy right now. I'm not colored, because this is not 1942 and this is not the Bible Belt. Yeah, I can't make this shit up, y'all. And 2, like, I'm not a gal, but also 3, like, what the fuck? This how we talking to people? No high or nothing. Just sexy color gal. And then he told me he was a redneck from Alabama. And I'm like, my nigga, what? So y'all know I blocked him because that's crazy. I didn't even respond. I just blocked because I'm like, that's actually insane. That's completely and utterly insane. But this is the type of shit I be talking about. Because these niggas will get up here and be saying crazy shit. And nobody cares. And that shit really be pissing me off. But I did not, like, consent to being called a colored gal. Because, number one, I'm not colored, not a gal. And also, like, I don't know. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Jim Crow ass fantasy. I'm good. That's not my steez. But he got blocked. That's all I can tell y'all. But people have said weird stuff based on my race and based on, like, my body and based on, like, what they perceive me to be simply because I'm a feminized person. And so I'm used to people behaving in similar ways such as that, but just because someone is used to something does not mean it's something that we enjoy being used to, because I don't enjoy being used to that. I don't enjoy being spoken to that in that way. I don't enjoy being treated in that way. I'm just, I don't put up with it because I blocked their ass. I'm not putting up with that shit. No, thank you. So calling me a sexy colored gal is insane. And yeah, he had to get blocked. But I will tell y'all some funny shit that I said to this white man that I was because I was doing PSO work, phone sex work. And he was one of them colonizer Southern types. So I told him, I wreck Pilgrim Poochie Cat for fun. I don't know what convinced me to just be crazy like that. And I really don't in real life. And I don't even want none of it. But I called it that because, like, I'm like, why the fuck is your colonizer ass on my line with this bullshit? Like, get off my line with that. So yes, I did say that because number one, I don't care. And number 2, like, get away from me. Like, I do be calling the white men pilgrims. I'd be like, get that Pilgrim Peter away from me. Because I don't want it and I don't need it. That whatever you got, I don't want. I don't care about a musty Mayflower ass bitch up there looking like the Quaker Oats nigga. But TLDR, these men don't really care about who you are as a person. They don't understand the nuance in, like, how people identify, and that identity does not always equal presentation. And that there are people such as myself who, yes, I identify as femme, but I'm more so a STEM. I really feel like I'm more of a STEM person where I do like some mask aesthetics and some mask like clothing, but then I like to wear a wig, or I like to get my hair and nails done, or I like to like do my makeup. But I love a whole pantsuit in a beat face, and not a pantsuit like how Hillary Clinton be wearing her pantsuits, because them shit's dry as hell, and I'm not no dry ass nigga. And then if I really told everybody my full gender identity on these websites, they really gonna like be putting up question marks. Because when I start saying, oh, I identify as non-binary and gender fluid and a demi boy, they not gonna understand that. They not gonna understand that. That's too much going on. That's too much going on. I don't even tell everybody that because I just don't feel like explaining. It's just be too much to explain. And and when I start explaining shit a lot, that's gonna piss me off. I be giving up sometimes because it's like, nigga, I don't know. Y'all be doing too much. All right, so now we're gonna move on to the powder. I haven't really covered dating and sex work because number one, I'm not dating right now. I'm in a very, it's very hard to explain where I am right now. And honestly, where I am right now would be more of a private conversation versus something to be consumed for content, because like I'm not here to tell all my business. I'm here to tell relevant business. So, and the relevant business is that it's complicated and I'm not really dating. But one thing I will not do on dating apps is mention that I do sex work. A lot of these people will try to report you if they find out that you do sex work. And also if you put it on your platform, like on your profile, you may get flagged for removal, or someone may report you for that, because men feel like, especially men, even if you're not looking for them, they still somehow have access to your page. Men think that any inkling of sex work means that they're going to get taken advantage of. And it's like, baby, you broke as hell. You can't do shit for anybody. So these men get all up in arms and shit because they feel like anybody that does sex work is ultimately out to get them. But the fun factor of it all is that, baby, you don't have nothing to be out to get. Baby, you don't have shit for me to be out to get. And if you broke, just say that. The majority of us are broke, so you good. But it behooves you to be honest about your brokenness, because clearly that is an indicator that you are. Because only broke niggas tweak over shit like that. And so I just, I'm very much a person where I try to keep these things separate. And if I think you're a person that I'm serious about, then I'll be like, this type of work I do type shit. This is some of the work that I do. But also, no shade, I would have an inkling of what type of person you are before I even tell that, because the type of people I date would see sex workers as people and just employees, which is an extension of a person's personhood. It's not really all of a person. It's just literally something that we do for work, and not see it as an opportunity to try to quote unquote fuck me to make content for free, or to get free content from me, or to think that you could just have sex with me and that's it. Because I have to see if we have a political alignment before I can even tell you about any employment alignments. And these niggas always tell on themselves. So like, that's not hard to point out or suss out. Yeah, I just think, as an aside, I'm tired of people blaming porn for how these men are acting, when it's like, first of all, men are not the only people that watch porn. And other type of people watch porn and they don't be tweaking like that. So I'm thinking we got to look more at the societal bullshit that be conditioning these men to act like that. Because to blame it all on porn makes absolutely no sense. And when y'all start scapegoating sex workers instead of holding these institutions accountable, it's really wild to me. But again, even with men being like, oh, this is a sex worker, or I don't want to pay a prostitute, when they be on the dating apps talking about, oh, if you got Cash App in your bio, I'm swiping left and all this extra shit. Like, the fact that they allow these men to talk like this and not tell them, like, my nigga, you sound broken, and stupid as hell. Like, nobody is telling them anything. Because, like, why the fuck do you think it's okay to talk about people like that? I'm also tired of them saying that, like, porn is to blame for how these men are acting. Because first and foremost, men are not the only people that watch porn. And when other people watch porn, they're not being the ones that are noted as tweaking. So, like, I don't know why it's just the men tweaking. And also on top of that, we need to really look at it more as a socio-psychological issue that is being fed into by patriarchy, which is, the main reason why these men act like that, because they feel like it's okay to treat women and femmes and anyone that they feel like is beneath them or doing something that's immoral because their identities are immoral. And being a man means, especially a white cishet man, means that you're not immoral. You're perfect and pure and great, and that we can't damage these men's brains. We can't damage these men's reputations. And that porn is doing that. But it's like, baby, they're doing it. It's not the porn. Because again, there are people that watch porn that are not men and they don't be tweaking. And so I say that to that, like, y'all don't want to hold these systems accountable. Y'all just want to have scapegoats. Because then it becomes a question of, well, if she wasn't performing that way on the website, on that salacious video, he wouldn't be reacting like that. No, he's reacting like that because you told him that he does not have to value anyone but himself and the people who look like him and have similar bodies to him in many ways that means. And that also, like, he has to look at sex as something that's to be conquered and not to be shared and not to be indulged in and not to be enjoyed. So of course he's tweaking. The nigga is feeling shame because he's watching the shit. The society is telling him he should be shameful for watching the shit. Society is also telling him that anything sexual, he's owed. And he's owed, and that he has to, he's told that anything sexual he's owed. And that he doesn't have to have people consent to that for him to get it. So of course these men act like that. And you don't have to have porn for them. They've been even before pornographic content, they've been acting like that in these patriarchal societies. So, like, it's just weird. And it's okay to hold that these people are weird, and that the system is making them weird, and that the system is weirder. And that the system is working as intended by design to scapegoat marginalized people until none of us are left, and then they're going to start scapegoating the men. Because again, systems have to get the buy-in of the privileged, because they are still going to persecute and oppress the privileged folks. They're just going to experience it last. And also, in the meantime, the privileged folks are still feeling a level of oppression because they're still being shamed by those systems. If you're a God-fearing white man that jorks it all day, you're not a real man. So of course they're feeling shame around that, because that's what the society is conditioning them to feel. But then instead of dealing with the societal issues, they make it an us problem, because again, they have to have that buy-in. So when they catch them unawares and start persecuting and oppressing them further, they're going to be like, well, I thought it wasn't about us. I thought it was about this other group. And it's like, no, baby, it's been about you too this whole time. We just chose an opportune time to make it fully about you now, because there's no one else to make it about. And then herein lies the issue that white supremacy is cannibalistic, and that oppressing marginalized communities is not going to help anything. So instead of naming porn as an addiction and as a problem, look at it more so at how these men don't believe in consent. Look at it more so at how these men treat marginalized communities as chattel and treat marginalized communities as things to consume, and look at it as, what can we do to change that? What can we do to change that? Nobody's looking to change this stuff though, on the grander scheme of things, because if we change those things, that means we take money out of billionaires' hands. That means we have to hold people accountable. That means some people have to be punished for their behaviors. That means a lot of things that these rich niggas don't want to deal with, and these niggas in power don't want to deal with, because guess what? A lot of them would be culpable, I believe that's the word I want to use, and complicit, excuse me, in these acts. And also, since we're in the middle of an integrity collapse, we're not going to listen to the people that actually know the knowledge. We're not going to listen to the people that have spent years on studying these things. We're not going to listen to the people with the very lived experience that make the porn to tell you they're not addicted to it. They're addicted to the high of oppressing us because of patriarchy. That's what they're addicted to. And I use addiction very much in a non-clinical way. I just want to specify that. It's about the power that they can have over people. And people view the consumption of sex work, especially when it's paid for, to be they're losing power because they're indulging in something. I think that also is something to be said too. This idea that, we got to start coming after the sex workers because these are people that are really fighting for their bodily autonomy, and the work is something that even the men can't fully control. So that's why they do censorship. That's why they test the foster. That's why we have people trying to revoke. They're trying to revoke Section 230. That's why we have all these age verification laws. It's about bodily autonomy. And even the fact that we're there, the society's critiquing how these men are pleasuring themselves to the content or consuming said content is also their idea of going against autonomy. Also, when you live in a Christio-fascist oligarchical society, they don't want you masturbating, they want you fucking. And only fucking for procreation. So of course, if you wasting your seed to a video, then why the fuck are you doing that? It's wasting it. So of course they're gonna try to come after it. You're not getting nobody pregnant with that. Maybe your hand, tee-hee, but damn sure not a human being. They not looking for that. This nigga RFK really sat up there where his worm, and really sat up there and said that men in the 70s had twice as more sperm than teenage boys in this time. First of all, why do we care about teenage boys and their sperm count? Why do we care about their sperm count? They're kids. And secondly, we don't have a fertility crisis. And they talking about, we want to go after obesity and the toxic soup that women are existing in. And first of all, let's break that down. Let me just break that down briefly. Y'all are the cause of this toxic soup that people are existing in. Y'all are literally staging an attack and an assault on these Middle Eastern countries because y'all want to steal the very fossil fuel that is killing all of us. That's number one. Number two, we also have to think about how y'all have literally removed protections for workers because so many people are getting laid off. They can't even afford their rent. And a lot of us are working multiple jobs, and most of these jobs are part-time or they're gigs, and we're still not making enough money. How the fuck can I even think about going to get pregnant when I can't afford health insurance? Do you know how expensive it is to be pregnant? You know how many doctor's visits you have to do? And don't let it be a high-risk pregnancy. Because if you're a person that's on SSRIs, if you're a person that takes blood pressure medications, if you're a person that's diabetic or has any other chronic conditions, you are going to have a high-risk pregnancy. And if you're a black person, you're still going to have a high-risk pregnancy because we don't even know if you're going to survive the birthing process because these hospitals don't give a fuck about black women and femmes. Y'all have created the toxic soup. And no, I'm not here to say that fatness is a part of that because it's not. They try to make it seem that way because it's the eugenics of it all. They don't want fat people having kids. They want strong, strapping white people to have kids that are thin and quote unquote healthy. That's what they want having kids. But also, a lot of people don't have kids because a lot of the straight people don't realize you don't have to be with a man. A lot of the straight people refuse to explore their options. And also on top of that, the folks that do fuck with men, they don't fuck with them no more. Why I'm gonna fuck with you when you gonna kill me? Domestic violence also reportedly increases when people are pregnant. So people don't want to be stuck with a weird nigga in a house and he's making weird threats. And even beyond that, these men are insufferable and they're evil. Nobody wants to deal with them. And also on top of that, I can't even afford groceries. I can't even afford an apartment. People are paying $2,000 plus for a 1-bedroom. You really think I'm gonna be able to afford to have a kid? Please, that's a fucking joke. Nobody can afford that. So of course, nobody's really having kids like that because they can't afford it. And also, no shit, you're not even taking care of the niggas that's here. Why are you talking about bringing somebody else into the world? You're not even taking care of the niggas that's already birthed. Y'all literally, this is the same person who said people shouldn't get measles vaccines. All those kids that came into the world that died because you done convinced their parents that these kids don't need a measles vaccine. What about them? You want to bring new people in this world to do what? Kill them? Because that's what you're doing? This is the same person that literally said black kids that take ADHD meds need to be rehoused and reparented with a different parent. And you know what they mean by sending black kids to a different parent. They're not sending, first of all, why are you taking people's kids? But second of all, they're not sending them to other black people. It's like, I don't want to hear shit if you're like, oh, we have a birthing crisis and in a toxic soup. What are you doing about the soup that y'all made in y'all cauldron? Like the vile conservative hag ravens that y'all are. What are you doing about that soup? And also, why is it my fault that I don't have to get pregnant? I don't want to. And I'm gonna be real with you. Everybody's not cut out to be no motherfucking parent. I'm mentally ill. I'm terrified of being a parent. Not to say that I can't be a parent, but I need to get my own shit supported. But like Audra was saying on their channel today, y'all don't necessarily have to have kids with men if you're looking for some sperm. I'm gonna tell you right now, and I'm gonna say it in real time, like I said on Audra's chat. Some of the best penis I've had has been from NB people and trans people. Some of them would actually love to be a parent too. And some of them would be better parents because they know what it's like to be abandoned by families. A lot of us. And especially if they're doing the work to kind of move through that, they may be a great parent. They may be a great catch. And also it's going to be more of a chance of it being a pleasurable experience. Because again, even with making babies, we don't need to just think about that. We also got to think about, is it something pleasurable? Is it something exciting? Is it something arousing? This should be a time to still indulge and enjoy. You laying by a nigga that don't even know how to spell clitoris. What are we doing? Like, I don't want to, that's not how I'm trying to live my life, champ. That's not how I'm trying to live my shit. I haven't been with a straight nigga in a long time, and I thank my lucky stars every day. I know you must be wondering, Monique, what are some parting words that you would like to leave us with today? And to that I say, if you're going to become a spicy worker, really assess your risks. Assess your risks. Assess your needs, assess your wants and your goals, really do your research, really think about what type of work you're doing and how, when you do that work, the things that can make it more complicated, and if you have the capacity to deal with those things. There's gonna be a lot of shit that happens in this job that's gonna make you want to pull your hairs out and give the fuck up. And one of those things is gonna be how the money is coming or not, because just speaking from my own personal experience, even the money shit has made me tweak before. I'm also going to say this too. And yes, I'm not doing no magic trick Harry Houdini shit. You will see me put this wig on. And I don't care. Because guess what? I don't believe in magic. I believe in reality. Well, I do believe in magic in terms of like hoodoo and shit. But that's a whole nother conversation. But that trick of the eye bullshit they be doing on social media, I don't give a fuck about that. You know that what's underneath this wig. So you don't be alarmed when you see me put on the wig. And matter of fact, we're going to lay the wig up here. Just so you can get reacquainted with it. We're doing a headband wig. And by headband wig, I mean I'm gonna put the wig on and put the headband on. See, I put this wig on raw because I don't care, and that's fine. And then I'm gonna style it. But first, I want to make sure all the hair is out. But yes, I said put the wig on raw because that's what we doing. Putting the wig on raw. Yeah, I like this as a middle part situation. This is the finished makeup look. I will be back to record another video where I talk about Euphoria and my notes on Euphoria. So stay tuned for that. Thank y'all for listening to another from the Desk of Monique Starr. It's always a pleasure to talk about the work that I do and really unpack the work that I do. And I look forward to seeing you again soon in the saloon. Peace out.